Meeting is starting. Helping you, Mayor.
Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the City Commission. Here's Tuesday, July 16th. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Markert?
I'm here.
Mr. Long?
Here.
Ms. Cassell?
Here.
Ms. Burns? Here. Mayor Carney?
Here. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Agenda approval. Now we have 6A and 6B are going to be removed from the agenda.
Yes, please.
Okay, is there anything, any other agenda items anyone want pulled for discussion or from the?
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to load my agenda, but it was the proclamation. Was that date updated to the 19th? Okay,
Yes,
never
sir.
mind. I don't need to pull it. Thank you.
The proclamation for
The Ronaldinho thing,
Yeah.
it had the wrong date in it when I looked at it, but I hadn't rechecked it. I just want to make sure that
All
was
set.
good. So I have to
Yeah,
pull
no,
it.
Ronald.
No need to pull that.
Ronaldo is all
Good to
set.
go.
Awesome.
Good to
Thank
go. Anyway, so if we have no additions or
Can I just
substitutions.
ask a
perfect.
question?
Yep.
Because we're talking about the budget.
Except 6A and
6M3.
I'm sorry?
6M3, the mausoleum. I'm sorry, Sam, I should have talked to you before we were chatting. I
Just 7AA?
Correct, thank you.
You want 6M3?
Correct, the mausoleum.
Oh, the monthly, okay, you want that, will be now 7AA?
Yes,
right?
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Seeing no others. Presentations.
Mayor, we have to approve the agenda as amended?
Oh, yes. we
Motion
do.
to approve amended agenda
As amended?
And
as
second.
amended.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? No, great, it's approved. Presentations.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, no presentations formally, so the next update will be comments and inquiries via the Office of the City Manager, and I have one item.
Okay,
And that is, as I committed last week regarding the Caron Foundation, it goes back to a information letter report at the end of June I offered regarding the status of that particular funding source, not to mention clarity with respect to agreements with school leadership. So I've asked Education and External Opportunities Manager, Janai Bowens, to offer a brief presentation in terms of status relative to why we are where we are, to likewise provide an opportunity for Commission to offer midterm and long-term thoughts, direction, and expectations regarding the Caron Fund itself. Ms. Bowens, if you would, please.
Good evening. Janai Bowens, Education and External Opportunities Manager. I'll be providing a brief presentation concerning the Caron Foundation settlement. So the purpose of the presentation is, one, to provide historical context of the Caron Foundation settlement and its amendments, including the consent order, to provide clarification on accruals and expenditures of the Caron Foundation of Florida, Inc. settlement to date, as well as to seek direction on the use of funds for future external opportunities. So the Caron Foundation settlement, in 2012, Caron agreed to pay the city of Delray Beach a sum equal to the property taxes assessed on their properties the previous year. In lieu of the school board base taxes, Caron agreed to provide substance abuse training and education to community-based organizations. In 2015, Caron divested themselves of the operations attributed to the Henley Center. So the staff in the Henley Center were the ones that were providing the in-kind services to schools, to community-based organizations regarding substance abuse training. And so once those operations were shuttered, the resources were also, pretty much shuttered as well. In 2015, a request to amend the city's Caron settlement agreement and consent order was approved by the City Commission, and so additional payments by the Caron Foundation for the school board taxes began in 2016. Both the school board and property taxes are paid to the city annually by March 31st. The first payment to the city was made in 2014 in an amount of $55,159.22. In 2016, Caron began to include the school board payment after the consent order was approved. The total accrual of school board and property taxes from the Caron treatment centers is $1,144,854.96. This brings us to the delegation of the Caron Foundation funds to educational initiatives. In 2015, then city manager was delegated the approval of the sitting commission, to use additional school board taxes for educational efforts. Some of those educational efforts that were approved by the city commission and brought forth by the city manager included No Place for Hate, which champions diversity and inclusion, the Literacy Coalition's Pink Shirt Day, which tackles bullying and self-esteem, Kids Safe in Delray Beach Public Schools, another program that tackles social emotional learning as well as self-esteem building, and a book purchase program for Delray Beach Public Schools, in particular for materials that promoted drug prevention and substance abuse education. During the July 9th regular meeting, there were public comments made indicating that the Caron Foundation money was never used or intended to be used as a grant funding source. However, I wanted to clarify those statements because in 2018, a grant opportunity using the Caron settlement was made available to schools and nonprofits under the previous director and education coordinator. In total, 14 grants were provided to various nonprofits. And so those nonprofits are included in the above chart. The grant that was provided in 2018 is included in the expenditures of the Caron Foundation money that we have thus far. So from the previous records within the Neighborhood and Community Service Department, the agencies above received $66,800 to provide various programming. Using the model of the 2018 grant for education initiatives, the City of Delray Beach Education Grant was proposed in 2023. So the genesis of this grant occurred after I presented to the commission a state of education presentation. And in that presentation, I did showcase proficiency, enrollment, and graduation data. So that data from last year was very similar to the data that was presented this year. Upon that presentation, I received direction from the City Commission to help address systems impacting student performance. So in my work, I decided to have community conversations with district stakeholders, including students, staff, school leaders, as well as our regional superintendents, to discuss what the city can do in order to fortify our partnership with the students that we serve. So out of those conversations, we had a couple of different programming that the stakeholders requested support from. And so those included student performance projects, mental health programming, things that could assist with literacy and math. So in August 2023, I presented some of these findings to the City Commission, whereby a structure for the education grant was formed. Following the city's grant policy, the application for the education grant was advertised in September of 2023. The goal of the grant was to provide funding for high impact areas that align with the education element in the city's comprehensive plan. So the education grant was brought forth to tackle student academic proficiency, as well as impact positively school safety, positive behavior interventions, mental and behavioral health. So that aligns with our goals of education advocacy, as well as our main goal, which is the public school coordinated planning and fortifying those relationships that we serve. The funding agreements for the education grant were approved by the City Commission in February of 2024. So the 2024 Delray Beach Education Grant will allow school leaders and support staff to address those specific systems impacting student performance. Here we have some of the programs, or all of the programs, that will be impacted by that funding, listed by each school. So each school wishes to use funding to provide programs that activate academic incentives as well as mental and behavioral health support. There were also public comments as to funding for nonprofits and utilizing the Caron settlement funding to support nonprofits. So currently, we just had a nonprofit presentation, but the city does support nonprofits that impact our educational viability here in Delray Beach. Some of those nonprofits include Achievement Centers for Children and Family, which primarily operates in Pine Grove and Village Academy to provide after-school programming, summer camps, academic support aligned to each school's school improvement plan, educational enrichment programs, and parent workshops. Also, we provide funding to the Boys and Girls Club. The Boys and Girls Club provides literacy, math, and science interventions, as well as serves as the 21st Century grant site, particularly hosting Plumosa School of the Arts students in order to provide one-on-one support for academic enrichment. As well as we provide funding to Sandaway Discovery Center, and they also provide curriculum and experiential learning to Delray Beach Public Schools. So I'd like to use this time to open dialogue regarding future external opportunities. The estimated Caron Foundation settlement fund balance is about $1,064,000. This amount allows future collaboration with external community partners that support the original agreement and consent order of substance abuse training, mental health wellness, education, and any of the other priorities from the mayor and the commission. So I wanted to tie in Healthier Delray Beach, because there was a conversation about utilizing the money specifically for substance abuse and mental health training. So Healthier Delray Beach is a community partner. They're already within our city's healthy community element, within our city comprehensive plan, who are doing the work, and also who have stated impact and viability within our community. So some of their initiatives are the Get Your Green On 365 initiative, Teen Life and Healthier Delray Beach, as well as the Palm Beach County Birth to 22 initiative. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
City Manager, do you have something to?
I'd like to turn the keys over to the keys to the car over to the City Commission in this regard. This is actually being made available for you all. As I articulated via the June 28th information letter report, some of the background that Ms. Bowens was able to share this evening is consistent with that update, not to mention the fact clarity haven't been achieved with respect to why the agreements were executed to begin with and why they exist. My principal interest, and I think Ms. Bowens agrees with me, we've talked about this quite a bit, is to over time gain a sense of direction and understanding as to what the Commission's expectations are regarding external partnerships, thus the concluding comments as a part of our presentation.
Okay. Commissioner Long, would you like to start?
I'll just ask a question to start. Ms. Jelen, you referenced at the last meeting that we were sort of locked in at this point contractually. Is that the case? And have those funds been dispersed yet, or is that kind of still in a holding pattern while we have these discussions?
So we have fully executed funding agreements with the schools, the local schools. The funds have not been delivered yet. I do have a phone call with the school board attorney tomorrow to essentially update her. I wanted to wait till the commission provided some direction today. But my position is, while there is a termination for convenience clause in there, I think the schools are reliant on these funds, and they were promised to them. So, I would hesitate to exercise that clause.
Got it. Okay. I'll hold additional comments after you guys have a chance to talk through this.
Commissioner Casella?
Sure. I just, when the individuals got up and spoke in front of us, there was talk about how the litigation indicated how the funds should be utilized, and that in fact the school system was using the funds for pizza parties and Starbucks gift cards. And if that is actually accurate, that's not good for us, because then we have to answer presumably to the Caron Foundation as to why we are distributing funds in a manner not consistent with the litigation, correct?
So the litigation, the settlement agreement was amended because, as Janai eloquently told you, the Caron Foundation closed and they weren't able to provide those services. When I reviewed the agenda cover memo to support the amendment to the settlement agreement, you know, it is open-ended. It does talk about substance abuse and mental health treatment, which is what was offered by the Caron Foundation. I think it's a little unfair to just talk about the Starbucks gift cards. I think those are the incentives that are given for the children who receive the services and succeed in receiving those services. But yes, that's what the monies are being used for. That's one very small aspect. I did email you the funding agreements, and I apologize. I think going forward with these funding agreements, the applications that are submitted by each school should be labeled as an Exhibit A and attached to the agreement. I think that's important because if the schools are not compliant with the
Right.
performance measures that they promise the city, we do have a clawback provision in these agreements. So I apologize. I didn't realize that those weren't attached. So, we can always do better. But at the end of the day, I think that's a little bit of an unfair assessment. Now, the commission always has the discretion on how to use those funds. It was not this commission. It was a previous commission. It was done in February. But what and the mayor and I spoke about this yesterday, and what we discussed, and I think is a good idea, is, we need policy direction from the commission. And so if the direction is, let's use nonprofits a little bit better and use this money to support the local nonprofits. I know Roots and
Right.
Wings was here last time, and that have a successful proven history, right? Because
Right.
we don't want to just give away this money. We want programs that are really going to help these schools. That's what we need. And so, maybe a previous commission didn't have that specific direction and left it more to the city manager's discretion to bring that forward. But if we have a policy direction from this commission in writing that memorializes the intent, I think we're going to avoid this seemingly endless conversation going forward.
Right.
And I think that's what we really need at this point.
In part of our conversation, the thought would be, and by the way, I'll, in full disclosure here, my view was, because the schools had really kind of already banked on this for this year, that this is a prospective conversation, what we would do next year, because it would really be very unfair to do it this year, because they probably already got things planned. They may be buying materials, they may be doing that, so I wasn't going to have it for this year. But my thought was that we have some good local not-for-profits who have the ability to also do this, and to the extent we can support those not-for-profits, they would come to us with I guess they would make an application showing what they're going to do with it, and you would make some decision as to whether or not they qualified, whether the program that they're going to have fall within the guidelines of the settlement agreement. And that's kind of where I was thinking, because we have some great not-for-profits. We just heard from 6, and you just mentioned another. We have some great not-for-profits that could undertake some of these things, and to the extent we can provide them with some resources, I would rather do that than, I love the school board, but
Right.
they've got a great big budget on their own.
Absolutely,
Exactly.
Mayor, and I 100% agree. But I did want to offer some commentary regarding the public comments about the Starbucks gift cards and the pizza parties, because our school leaders, they are a part of our community. A lot of them are tax-paying citizens, and so they watch the meetings, and it is an inaccurate depiction of what they would like to use the money for. As Attorney Jelen stated, it was a very small snapshot of what one school put into their application. And the reason being, so we saw a couple of our nonprofits sit here and they talked about food disparities and lack of motivation for our students. So in an effort to kind of promote some type of teacher efficacy, hence the Starbucks gift cards, because we have a trouble with, getting viable talent here in Delray, and as well as it's not in their budget to provide those kind of incentives for the teachers that are doing the work, as well as for the students that are performing. They decided to kind of pitch that in the application. However, I did work with legal. I also worked with the regional superintendent to go over those applications and to tell them, them, we understand the rationale behind why you would choose to use the money in that way, but it cannot be used in that way. And so I also attached to this presentation some of the amendments to the requests, because it was multiple requests to benefit student academic performance, mental health awareness, as well as incentives, to incentivize good performance from teachers, staff, and from students. And so those kind of things that were relative to Starbucks and pizza parties were cut. To just be quite honest, we told them you cannot use the funding for that. That's not what the funding is for. We understand the rationale. However, the money can only be used to impact student performance, mental health, and behavior. So, and that meeting was held May 20th. I can also provide you with documentation for that as well.
Thank you. Mayor, if I may, I agree with you, because we have these amazing nonprofits that are already providing these supplemental services to our students. So I would rather support them than giving the money to the school system. And to those comments, it's not good for us when people are coming up to the podium and talking about how are the UDAG funds used, how are the ARPA funds used, and what's going on with the Caron funds. And that's not what we want to hear. We need to answer those questions and then move forward, productively. And I think you have a great idea. Thank you.
Commissioner Burns.
Yes, I just thank you for the presentation. And, as always, I'm totally for support of schools. However, I do support that we supplement our nonprofits that do work with our students in our communities. But as some of my colleagues have said, we've already made the promise to the school district for the funds for this year. So, we're talking about anticipated uses. And since you have made clear to the schools what the funds can be used for, which to impact student achievement, I say that we go ahead with that. However, we do have additional funding that I think that we should support our nonprofits.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Marker.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Angela said. My feeling is that we've already committed this money to the schools this year, and I think that would be improper for us to pull that funding, even though we technically can do it, it sounds like. But I think the money, like Angela said, should go directly to the nonprofits. So that's where I wash out.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Merker.
I went to Catholic schools, and the nuns would often resort to pizzas and things like that to get us to all come in, to get us to volunteer for other stuff. So I do understand the incentive having pizzas in Starbucks. So, but I just for the record, because it worked for us. Anyway, so any more comments from the commission?
I'm in agreement with you guys.
Okay, so you have direction.
So the direction, we will honor the existing agreements with the individual schools as committed to that effect. However, prospectively, effective the next application cycle, we'll work to develop a process so that nonprofits will have the opportunities to be considered. So we will update a selection process, some level of engagement to get to that place so that those opportunities can be made known to the City Commission. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, very well. Likewise, Ms. Janai Bowens, as we arrive tomorrow morning, we will process the commitments having been authorized by the Commission earlier this year for the schools, and that will be a priority for you and all of us concerned.
Yeah, schools start soon. They're going to need the money soon. So.
Yes, sir. Well, the timing is rather impeccable, to your point, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
So thank you, and thank you for your time, ladies and
Thank
gentlemen.
you.
Next item is public comment from you, the public. The meeting is now open to public comment from anyone wishing to speak on any topic or agenda item other than a quasi-judicial item or a public hearing item. Public will have an opportunity to speak on quasi-judicial and public hearing items later in the meeting as those agenda items are called. For public comment, please sign in, state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes each, and I'm going to stick to the 3-minute thing. Apparently, I let people go on, and it's annoying. So if I cut you off at 3 minutes, I'm not being rude. It's just that your time is up.
Hi, my name is Richard Lucas. I reside at 1109 Vista Del Mar Drive in Delray Beach. The reason I was here for the earlier meeting is not because I was that interested, but I was once I sat there, is because my air conditioning broke. And this is air conditioning. As you probably all know, most of you know there, I spent a lot of time, I volunteered for Tom Cardy in the mayoral election the election that just passed. I also got to know Commissioner Casale and Commissioner Merkett, that I really like a lot. And for total openness, I contributed all three of them. A year ago, I contributed to Commissioner Merkin. I've never got to meet you, Ms. Burris.
You mean Commissioner Long?
Commissioner Long. I'm sorry, Commissioner. Commissioner Long.
I'll make sure to introduce myself.
I just want to say I experienced something. First campaign I ever worked with. One of my main functions was to run and to organize meet and greets. Tom Carney, we organized 14 to 15 meet and greets around the county. Around the city. And what was very prevalent was that people were angry. Out of those meet and greets, 400 people attended 15 meet and greets. The number one issue they talked about was real estate taxes. Real estate. He fielded at least 1,000 questions. Half of them were about real estate taxes. And in deference to Commissioner Long, there were 3 or 4 questions out of those thousands about Old School Square. 3 or 4. And I mean, it wasn't even on it wasn't even on their agenda. Parking was on their agenda, and so on and so forth. But the thing that I just want to stress is that sometimes, I've been in the private sector a long time, but sometimes I think you guys forget whose money this is. And it's people, 44% rate in real estate tax increases in the last, I don't know how many years it was said.
6. Yeah.
That's obscene. You guys have got, by education and by my profession, I'm a CPA, I have a master's degree in taxation, I spent 8 years with the IRS. I could find $5 million in 30 minutes and you wouldn't even know it was missing. Last thing I just want to say is the other thing that was very prevalent at those meetings, the thing that got people angry at those meetings, was the fire department contract. It was mentioned constantly. People know what it was. They believe it's their perception. I'm not saying it was, but it's their perception. It was a political payoff to get the fire department union endorsement. And then when the fire department union people started all going down to, vote, to walk precincts for him, it was confirmed. We need an explanation as the fire department contract, because that's a cancer in the budget, because you're going to have to address it with all the other people. Thank you very much. I respect all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening again. My name's Ted Hoskinson. I'm at 513 Seasage Drive, Delray Beach, Florida. I have a nonprofit that I founded in honor of my wife in 2016, and I wanted to talk about my $2,500 grant that I got $2,000 grant that I got from the Caron Foundation, because we were one of those people selected several years ago. We used that money for 2 different things. It was called Project Imagination, and we had 2 speakers. The first one was a guy named Jackson Destine, who I met through Mark Sauer at Bound for College. He won the Wendy's High School Athlete of the Year award that year and got a free scholarship to the University of Florida. And that kid went to every one of the schools in Delray Beach. I paid him $100. He needed money to go to college. He had no money. I gave him $100 stipend for every speech he made to tell kids the importance that when he was in 5th grade, he didn't know how to read. And that kind of determination and desire on his part to change his life around made an impact. And if you had seen the kids in the younger grades listen to him, and even in middle school come up and want to have him sign their shoes, you would understand the impact of what a young person, not me, can have on other children and their wonder, right? So the other person that spoke is the son of this wonderful lady behind me. He did actor studio. He was a 4th grade student at Plamosa, and he did in the actor studio. He talked to the 3rd grade students about how important reading was. He's right there. Right? He's right there. I didn't even have to bring him tonight. His mother did, right? But he can tell you. And he had a bandage on his nose because he'd been, right? Okay. So the most important thing in 30 seconds left is to say this Caron money is really important to nonprofits. We can use these funds because we have regulations and things. When we go out and get a grant, we have things that we have to prove When we get it, we have to write specifics like how many kids graduated, how many kids had gains. We give away t-shirts that say perfect on it because they came and had perfect attendance. We give away gold and silver and bronze certificates to kids when they make reading gains, just like the Olympics. And those are things that mean we don't give them ice cream cones because they read a book. We have the teachers in the schools who do this work for us, the certified teachers, classes of 1 to 10. And the most important thing about it is these are kids who are reading 1 or 2 grades below grade level.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hoskinson.
Thank you.
Next, ready. Good afternoon. I'm Kenya Madison. I reside at 301 Northwest 7th Avenue. To the Honorable Delray Beach Mayor, City Commissioners, City Manager Moore, others in their respective positions, and members of our Paradise community. I stand before you today with a heart full of gratitude to express appreciation for your unwavering and steadfast support of meeting the behavioral health needs in Delray Beach. With the support of Palm Health Foundation since 2014, Healthier Delray Beach has been committed to promoting mental health wellness and providing connections to supports for the most vulnerable residents of our community. Through the power of partnerships, we've made significant impacts in addressing those crucial behavioral health needs of our community. And since 2019, under my directorship, Healthier Delray Beach has been at the forefront of advocacy for mental and behavioral health, calling out disparities and social determinants of health. Striving to improve health outcomes through our culture, communities, and connections is about better understanding how the unique environments and culture, the history embedded, and the circumstances of minorities and vulnerable populations impact their overall health. With your additional support, we have been able to implement various initiatives and programs tailored to address the unique challenges in our community, specifically the 33444 and 33445 zip codes. By providing safe spaces, connections to culturally competent counseling, therapeutic, and community support groups, we strive to ensure that everyone has access to the mental health services and resources needed to thrive. Together, we have worked tirelessly to raise awareness about the importance of mental health and break down stigma surrounding seeking help and creating a more supportive and inclusive environment for all individuals. Furthermore, through collaborations with community organizations, schools, and healthcare providers, we have continued to promote mental health awareness and provide training on recognizing and addressing mental health issues through our growing Delray Beach-based platforms like Get Your Green On and the Juneteenth Think Tank. It is through these collective efforts that we are actively working towards reducing disparities in mental health and ensuring equal opportunities for everyone to receive the help they deserve. As we collectively acknowledge July as National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, we are reminded of the importance of improving access to mental health treatment and services, addressing the need for care for those diagnosed with severe mental health disorders, and enhancing public awareness of mental illnesses among minorities. Racism continues to pose a significant public health crisis, perpetuating disparities in health outcomes and access to mental health care in underserved communities, particularly African American communities. Your continued support plays a crucial role in addressing these issues and fostering a more equitable and inclusive community, and I extend my heartfelt gratitude to each of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm trying to keep it to 3.
Hi, my name is Lisa Franklin. I'm a resident of Delray Beach. I reside at 1755 Linton Lake Drive. I do feel really cool right now because it's the first time the whole diocese has been somebody I've voted for. So congrats to all of you. But I am the executive director of the Delray Beach Drug Task Force, and I'm also a board member of the Palm Beach County Advisory on Behavioral Health, Substance Use, and Co-occurring Disorders that helped create the Palm Beach County Comprehensive Plan on how to spend the opioid litigation dollars. So that's why I'm here today, to talk about 10A1 and the direction of the opioid litigation funds. I'm hopeful because of the conversation that just happened with the Caron Foundation and wanting to get local nonprofits involved with the bidding for the use of those funds, because that's one of the things I wanted to talk about as regards to how the funds will be used. Something that Delray Beach is really lucky to have is the amount of wonderful nonprofits that we do and the involved citizens that we do that support substance use, mental health, and recovery from them. We have told the commission and recommended that there be a 90-10 split. 90% of the funds be used for social determinants of health, like the wonderful woman in front of me just noted. So access to safe and supportive housing, access to medical care, access to peer support, access to even like parenting services, because oftentimes there's grandparents that are now raising their grandchildren because their children have passed away due to an overdose. And raising a child today is a lot different than raising a child in the 80s and 90s. I mean, I don't even know how to use TikTok. But so it's like even implementing classes like that, you know, like at our awesome library. Delray Beach is looked at not only at the state at the state level for solution, but municipalities across the nation look at us. One of the initiatives we did with the Delray Beach Drug Task Force was help start the CARES program with Ariana. And that first year of the implementation of CARES program at the Delray Beach PD, there was an 82% reduction in overdose deaths just in 1 year. So with the teamwork makes the dream work approach, you know, I am confident that this community will be able to help provide access to equitable services with the appropriate use of these funds.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Rita Rana, 50 East Road, and I'm here with a thank you and a request. First, Manager Moore, I want to thank you for all the work that you did for the budget and also in trying to find opportunities to lower our taxes. And then the illustrious Mayor Tom Carney, when you were on the campaign trail, one thing that was greatly appreciated by everyone was your support to lower our taxes, and I'm happy to see that you're a mayor that follows through. So thank you for that. And then thank you all collectively, because I know there's various topics that, you know, sometimes you agree or disagree, but it looks like every single one of you is on the same page of this, so all the oars are rowing in the same direction, right? And just some things that I know each of you know, but just as a reminder why we're so excited for this is Delray Beach, our homeowners insurance is 3 times higher than the national average. Our rent is 25% higher than the national average. Our energy rates are soaring, and I'm sure if you live in an HOA, there's a lot of people who are having hardships. So we need this. So that's my thank you, is thank you for focusing on lowering our taxes, which is genuinely appreciated. And then my request is with respect to the Crest Theater. I don't know if I've seen, and if it's public someplace, you know, please let me know, but I would like to see the A1A billing form or a schedule of values. And then I would also want to know, do we have a performance bond? And lastly, is there a rendering? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Pamela Williams, 245 Northwest 8th Avenue. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am speaking today, or my comment, as it pertains to policy and past practices. In this past, I want to say year, maybe month or so, there was an incident where someone eligibility was questioned as it pertained to one of the city boards. The person was brought before commission, a vote was rendered, and a resolution was set forth. That is now what I consider past practice. I would hope that the commission will take that same view in consideration with all the boards. That person in particular had a situation with his application. There was some falsification that was the question of the situation, and we now have other members who are trying to get back on the board with the same situation. So I'm saying please be diligent in doing the same for present as we did for past. If Mr. Burgess had a problem with his application, whether he corrected it after the fact or not, and he was asked to no longer be a part of our volunteer board, I would really hope you all would do the same with anyone else who may have had a problem with their said application and probably have made resolutions, but let's keep it all a book. If we do for one, let's do for all. Also, I want to move on to thanking you all and past commission on the acknowledgement of Juneteenth. I had just retired, so I wasn't able to get that free day off, but I know my past coworkers are very, very, very happy with that. And as a resident and taxpayer, I'm glad that we were on board with every other city in this great county. So thank you for that. And somebody owed me 8 hours at $32.54. Now,
But we didn't get it off either, just to let you.
I'm talking about me. Every man for himself, and God help us all. Now, infrastructure. There's an infrastructure listing that is going around I know for sure the set communication. I assume other neighbors are doing the same. I want to make sure, I'd like to have it noted that the replacement, removal, or re-education of our roundabouts as it pertains to the set, that needs to be on that infrastructure platform of whatever sense. If we're going to keep them, let's educate them. If we're not, let's get them out of there. It's going back and forth, and we as a community don't know what the last result of that is. And before my time runs out, I want to say I missed the retirement of Ed D'Amico of our risk management, and I'm so happy that Paula has been promoted to that. I am very warm and fuzzy about that department, among others, being on steady ground.
Thank you very much. For the record, are you in favor of roundabouts or not in favor of roundabouts? I'm just asking.
He's asking me. Let's discuss
I'm
it
just
over.
asking.
Let's discuss it over a drink. He's asking me.
Happy to do it.
Then she'll drive you around the roundabout.
Mayor, Commissioners, Mitch Katz, 1618 West Classical Boulevard. When I served on the commission, I took board appointments very seriously and met with or spoke to anyone I nominated. One of the best appointments I made was appointing Mavis Benson to the DDA. She would go on to help revolutionize the DDA, make it an economic driver in the city. For anyone on the dais to try to say that a business that has been able to keep its doors open for 20 years, even during COVID, is not a legitimate business is downright irresponsible. This is a tomato. This is a carrot, because visuals seem to help sometimes. Since some of you can't tell the difference between what a virtual office is where somebody can't walk into to a business that's down on the avenue for 20 years where a business owner meets with her neighbors, meets with constituents, meets with the visitors and taxpayers, the voters, everybody that's walking by, not a virtual in the sky office. That's the difference. One thing you can do and one thing you can't. When Mavis turned in her application, she did what anyone else would do. She submitted her current lease. She had a valid application, which was valid at the time, and of the appointment. She's about to celebrate her 20-year in business with no reason to leave. In addition, the agenda item that was reconsidered for tonight's meeting, tonight you're voting on 7E, that was on 7F last month. On 7F, there was 2 appointments. In 7F, there was 2 appointments, one for an at-large seat and one for a tax-qualified seat. The first appointment was made by Commissioner Markert. He made that appointment. He didn't say, I'm making it to a tax-qualified. He made the appointment. You can watch the tape, to Mavis Benson. If you decide tonight that she's not tax-qualified, then I'm sorry, Mr. Long, then your appointment is not tax-qualified. You'd have to remake your appointment to somebody who is tax-qualified. Because he had the first appointment, he made it to the at-large. He happens to be somebody who is tax-qualified. So if you can tell the difference between a tomato and a carrot, you'll know that she is tax-qualified. She should stay, and you should also keep Mr. Knight on there. He'll do a great job. But just get sometime your heads out of the politics and do what's right. This is somebody who served our community. You should be thanking her and not disparaging her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. Mavis Benson, 800 Greenswood Court. Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager Moore, Attorney Lynn Jellin.
Ms. Benson, can you speak into the microphone?
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I am speaking regarding the downtown development reappointment for this evening. The Downtown Development Authority was established with a primary focus on parking, but its broader mission was to foster development and revitalization by encouraging investments in the downtown area. Under the leadership of its founding members, the DDA successfully achieved its goals, contributing to the vibrant downtown we enjoy today. When drafting the bylaws for the organization, significant attention was given to the roles and responsibility of board members. Recognizing the importance of having dedicated individuals involved, it was crucial to include those of whom deeply invested in the downtown community. Consequently, the bylaws stipulate that 4 members of the DDA board must either own property or hold a lease within the DDA taxing district. As a longtime resident and merchant of Delray, I am proud to be a part of our thriving downtown community. I have had the privilege of co-chairing the Merchants Association and collaborating with so many outstanding merchants. My concern often lies with the struggles faced by merchants and any potential impact of decisions made affecting their businesses. This is often what keeps me awake at night, and this concern motivated me to give back to the community by becoming part of the DDA, an organization that has been instrumental in my business's success. Meeting the requirements of tax qualification goes beyond having an address. It involves dedicating time and effort, just as our founding members did decades ago, to shape and sustain the downtown we cherish today. I provided you all with information, timelines, and documents regarding any concerns for you to review. I assure you that any discrepancies were entirely unintentional and the result of oversight. We have taken all necessary steps to rectify the situation and ensure that all paperwork is now aligned with both the lease agreement and the records with the Division of Corporation. Given these efforts to resolve the issue, I kindly ask for your understanding and consideration when casting your vote this evening. Thank you for your attention and understanding and your continued service to our downtown. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Chuck Ridley. I reside at 210 Northwest 2nd Avenue. The elders table asked me to write my comments. I wrote them. They did not ask me to read them. And until they get that part, I will be
You've been hanging around lawyers too much for all these technicalities.
I am concerned about the conversation in the workshop. I am not concerned about being fiscally responsible. I am concerned when we use that word and I'm not clear where those cuts are going to come from. And when I hear that those cuts may come from CRA, that is extremely problematic. Why? I thought what was offered made sense, but the reality is CRAs was created so that the TIF dollars that are generated then goes back to reinvest. To hold that from the primary community that created the slum and blighted conditions that justified CRA seems unfair. Now, do I believe that the tax rate of homes in the set match other areas? Absolutely not, because you drew a red line around it. And the impact of that red line is what we are still fighting for today. Please look for other ways to make this work. The second thing that the elders table asked me to have you consider is a public dialogue called People's Budget Dialogue. It'll give community a chance to say what we want to keep, what our priorities are. And we have a superstar in our community. His name is Brian Jones, who have been a CEO of national communities and Love Community that could very well run that. Get much more input. If you're going to cut, know what you're cutting and why, and not just from you. Hear it from the others so we can say what we want to cut. I don't know how to do $1 million budget, all right? I could do like the one at my house. I know how to make that balance. I know, all right? So I could tell you what's important.
That's a success right there, though, Chuck.
Okay, thank you. Please consider getting much more input so you will know what our community values. Thank you.
By the way, Mr. Ridley, for the record, it is not cutting anything from the CRA. That was additional monies that were going to go from the new run thing. So none of their money that they got, the money they got today would have been changed at all in that. And she will acknowledge that we're not taking anything from her because she never got it. So just for the record.
I still wanted to get it.
Okay, that's fine.
Good evening, Byron Jones, 205 Northwest 2nd Street.
Are you that superstar?
My family's been continuous residents for the city of Delray for 120 years. I had the opportunity to come back to Delray 4 years ago, and as you said, Mayor, things have kind of gone through the roof since I've been back. And I think there is an opportunity, as Chuck said, to drive more transparency around how the city runs and also its budgeting process. As a citizen, it would be great to know how we spend our money. Sure, there's certain cost lines that are set, fire, police, that are contractually set, but there are better ways to go about doing budgeting. So, for instance, we can benchmark ourselves to how other municipalities budget themselves. There are there are companies like the Hackett Group. You can understand how we spend money to say, are we actually investing the right dollars in certain line items within the city? We could look at indirect spend. People outsource indirect spend. It doesn't mean it impacts the people at the city, but it does mean you get better rates on your indirect spend that you may be paying for. Companies do that. IBM is a big indirect spend outsourcer. The reason I'm saying it is that it was thrown around, what should the millage rate be? I don't really care. That's like going to a car dealership and he asking you what you want your car payment to be, but you don't know what the interest rate is and you know what you're paying for the car. What matters is how much money are we spending out of our pockets on an annual basis as it relates to property taxes and everything else going on. We got property taxes, ad valorem tax from the city of Delray, I got Palm Beach County taxes from the county, from the school board and everything else. Plus I got water rates that are going up. We got to put in a big water plant. So what matters is that the absolute dollars that you spend on a year-over-year basis, whether it be flatlined or you can reduce it. That would be wonderful if you can actually reduce it. But if you could flatline it, I think that would be a tremendous win based upon the environment that we're in right now. What I would say is that any decisions that we do these workshops, they're kind of useless because they don't give you details. People talked about, well, I don't want to go into the reserve. What is the reserve? How should a reserve be benchmarked? What is an accurate reserve? How many, right? So I don't know what the reserve number is. People say, well, we want to keep our AAA rating. Sure, you can keep your AAA rating because of when you look at our debt cover service ratio based upon the bonds you're going to issue, that's not going to be an issue. And so I am a strong believer that if there's a way to cut the spend, we should do it reasonably and with without hurting something. But if we can keep things flat, that would be great also. But we just got to drive transparency. If the community can be involved in how we spend the money, we can help drive some of those decisions. We can make the right trade-offs, just like we make the right trade-offs in our households every single day. And so what we're going to have is we're going to have an issue with property taxes coming to a head, water rates coming to a head, along with other insurance coming to a head where people won't be able to pay it. And so that's not where we want to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments.
Hi, David Slane, 405 Southeast 7th Avenue. I'm here because we have a drainage system that is not working. I've been through several commissions. I've emailed many mayors. I've done everything I can. You've come to my house. You've come to my backyard. You've seen the drainage system. We have 4 drains in the street. They flood. The drain is supposed to go out to the intercoastal. It's bent. where the water comes back in and goes back out. They have the money, they tell me, but they haven't used it. They had the contractor, but he quit, so they walked away from it. Now it's now on the docket, and we need it bad for the street because it gets 9, 10, 12 inches of water on the street. They can't get through, and we need to put this and fix it. But they've held it up for years now. When I first moved here in 2016, I came to meetings and they told me that they're gonna tear up the street, put in a new drain system, put in street lights, and put in sidewalks and make it a one-way. And that got thrown out because the architect quit and nobody ever said a word about it. So these are things that are going on in the city that are thrown into the closet and nobody does anything about it. But we need this drainage system fixed, and we need it fixed soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
George Long, 46 North Swinton Avenue. I've come to commend the Public Works for, that doesn't happen, well, that does happen a lot, yes, for putting the four-way stop on South Swinton at 4th Street. That road has a reputation for speeders. I don't care how fast you go there. I don't say I drive fast, but there's always somebody behind you who wants to go a little faster. Now, I was looking at the history and thinking I saw my granduncle up there, John Sunday, and I believe he was the last person to ever go below 25 miles an hour on that road. It was about 1898, I believe it was. And they tell me he was testing his horse and buggy, and he got going. Officially, they thought it was about 24 miles an hour, but my grandmother said it was so fast you could play marbles on his coattail. So that's pretty fast. I'm not under oath, so I don't guarantee that all the facts are correct. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. We are now going to, we have the approval of the consent agenda as amended.
Motion to approve as amended consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Long? Any opposed? Consent agenda.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. We now are going to
7AA.
7AA, which is formerly
6M3.
6M3. Okay. And oh, there you are.
I did. I pulled that, and it'll be brief. And forgive me, Mayor, I did this quickly, but only because I saw the balance of this request, which is $2.8 million. And I was just wondering, I was trying to figure out where the money came from, and I went back because it says funding source is capital outlay cemetery, and remaining 1.56 million from the cemetery mausoleum. And then I went back and looked at the amendment. Some of that comes from the 1 cent tax. Some of that is surplus left over. And I guess my question, Mayor, is we're looking for over $2 million. Is it possible that we could, Mayor,
I'm listening.
Contemplate this project moving off a little? I know we have a problem where we're not going to have a lot of plots, but I guess my question is, in light of our desire to accommodate the lower millage, and in light of the fact that this is almost $3 million, is this something we could contemplate?
Is this a general fund?
Well, it's coming from a number of different places. Some of it is surplus, some of it is 1 cent tax. I can't tell where the 1.3 is coming.
Ms. Barletta.
Okay, so the 1.3, good evening, Missy Barletta, Director of Public Works. The 1.3 million is coming out of the perpetual care fund. That is something people pay into.
Which we can't touch that.
For the
No,
cemetery.
restricted.
The rest of it, and to clarify, the 2 million that was shown in the presentation earlier is not taking 2 million away from the beach renourishment project. I had a chance to touch base with the CFO and the city manager during the break. That is actually when you made comments to us during the CIP budget presentation last week, and you asked us to remove a couple of projects, and if there was a way that we could shift the way that some things were funded in the CIP budget.
Right.
We went back and did that.
Thank you.
And by doing that and shifting the way that those things were funded, we were able to reduce what we were asking you to provide to the beach renourishment program from reducing the fund balance by $2 million. So it's not really a reduction of $2 million. All the funding is still available for the beach renourishment project. It's just that we've shifted the way that we're paying for other projects so that we do not need to ask for that reduction in the fund balance.
I certainly understand the BPOA's confusion because it looked like it, and I knew
It did
once
look
it
like
once
it
it
to
would get
me,
explained
too.
to him, I knew we would. I was. That's why I was kind of fine
Right.
with it.
So that explains how that came about.
Thank you very much. So maybe, Missy, in light of this conversation, we could potentially look for some money in the CIP so that we can alleviate the concerns about level of service, Mayor.
To the extent it's funded with general fund, you can do
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
To the extent it's funded
I know
out of the
this
building
isn't,
fund, you can't.
right, or some portion. Only 500,000 of this is coming from the surplus of last year. 500. It says.
So this particular, for the mausoleum,
Yeah, it looks like
this is
561,000
paid
comes
for
from
out of the
prior year.
cemetery's perpetual care fund,
Yeah,
which
which
is
you can't jump.
specifically set aside for improvements at the cemetery. And it's also paid for out of the infrastructure surtax, which
Right.
does not affect the general fund.
Okay, thank you. I thought I'd give it a shot. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioner Sam Mita, Parks and Recreation Director. Just think there is one point I'd like to get on the record since we're talking about this is a revenue generating
Right.
facility for the perpetual care fund, so the building will pay for itself as well. And I
Right.
just think that's an important component as you consider it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I saw the movie Poltergeist.
Motion
I
to
don't wanna mess
approve.
with the graves. Who knows what's going to come back?
7AA.
I'm sorry?
Second.
Motion to approve 7AA.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Already.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
It got 2 seconds.
Double second.
It's a double second.
Double second.
Double second. You were first.
7A, the proposed millage rate. We have decided we are not going to be handling this, and we are moving this forward. You want to make a comment before we do that?
Yes, sir. So I appreciate Ms. Barletto offering some clarification because part of what I attempted to articulate based on last week's direction were adjustments vis-a-vis the capital improvement program, making it less general fund dependent so that we can get to that place. So I'm looking forward to creating a team-oriented engagement Thursday, July 25th, 2024. I'd like to propose that we host a special meeting for this specific purpose so that we can offer the granularity that we talked about, including specific commentary as to how we created recommendations for capital improvement program shifts to become less dependent on the general fund. We've done that in a few instances aggregately. We'll specify that in more detail so that we can be thoroughly clear to the points having been made earlier when the level of energy was experienced here at the dais. I would like to therefore ask that we have a meeting Thursday, July 25th, 2024, 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
I was going to say, because you have the town hall later that day.
That's exactly right, because we do have the town hall engagement, the quarterly town hall engagement scheduled for that day, 6 o'clock, over at the field house at Old School Square in collaboration with the Community Redevelopment Agency. We will speak in general in plain English, Mr. Markert, what the goals and objectives are for the upcoming fiscal year. We should not be compromised in that regard. However, it would be great to be able to communicate direction and outcomes achieved via the July 25th, 1 p.m. workshop meeting. So myself, Mr. Dunkley, and other members of the team will likewise offer presentations in terms of granularity so that we can be clear in terms of what opportunities available, not to mention follow-up meetings I will be having with each of you all as I've actually already began this week. So my recommendation is a special meeting for that purpose Thursday, July 25th, 2024, 1 p.m., same location, City Commission chambers.
Do we
What
have
do
a
you
motion
say?
to approve? Yes,
We
we
need
have
a
to set it. We have to
motion.
vote. We have to set it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Fine. 25th, 1 p.m.
Thank you, 1 p.m. Looking
right.
forward to it, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh,
And
I'm
again,
sure you are.
No, I really am. I appreciate the feedback and the opportunity to achieve, always. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go to work.
We can do 7B, however, right? That one is not in controversy at all. Mr. Dunkley, did we need a presentation on this, or we know what we're going to give them the one, and we just can?
The recommendation is pretty straightforward in terms of why we are where we are. Ms. Simon typically likes to offer a presentation, however, it's really not critical at this point.
Somebody make a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, great. Moving right along.
Good presentation, Laura.
The best one yet.
Quick.
So articulate, really. It was concise, fabulous. I don't want to waste time with my hyperbole. 7C, nomination, we have the Green Implementation Board. Who is,
Deputy Vice Mayor Long, Vice Mayor Cassell, and Commissioner Burns. They have the
Okay.
appointments.
and these are, okay, they're just all they're all things. So Commissioner, who gets first?
Commissioner Long.
Commissioner Long.
All righty. I'll reappoint Heather Seaman.
Okay,
Oh, second. I apologize.
that's fine.
I was looking for my
All in
list.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, approved. Commissioner Casal is next.
Okay. I did not realize I had a green board. Which
one is this?
I think I have
Terry,
a.
is Mr. Ferguson not eligible because he's on
No.
another board?
Right.
Okay.
Yes, he's on the PMAB.
Okay.
And he was appointed July 9th.
Right.
And we removed him.
Oh, because he's still on my list. Okay.
Yeah, he's still on.
I will pick Christine O'Connor.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's approved.
Thank you.
The nominations for this are, I know I'm.
There's one more.
No, there's
Commissioner
one
Oh, there's one more. I
Commissioner Burns.
apologize. I apologize,
I'm sorry,
Commissioner Burns.
Commissioner Long, who did you nominate?
I appointed or nominated Heather Seaman. And I think the other reappointment was
she was
Evan or Lana was the one I had as the other reappointment.
Okay. Evan Orielana?
Second.
Okay, thank you.
We have a nomination and a second?
Aye.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's fine. Great.
Can I make a quick comment just about these resumes? Because I think it highlights an issue that Commissioner Markert brought up before. I think the reappointments were good, but a lot of them had no information on them. They all, under every category, it was skip, 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 skip,
Yeah,
skip.
right.
Didn't even have their educational credentials or any experience or anything. And this was the first board I ever served on. I think it's an important board in our city. And I sent in a full resume when I did it. I emailed all the commissioners. And I don't want to make it more difficult for volunteers to serve, but how do we make decisions with folks when we have zero information? I think we've talked about this a couple of times. How do we make those fields mandatory? So if you don't put in some information about yourself, we don't see your resume. I don't want to see a resume that's just a name, right? That's all that
Understood.
at least 4 or 5 of these were.
I think after this appointment cycle, we're going to meet internally. I know I've had conversations with Mr. Morgan from the DDA to revamp this process because I also think it's confusing because it looks like a job application, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So we do need to revamp this, and we'll bring it before the commission for your approval.
Cool. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Okay, 70, nomination for appointment to the Public Art Advisory Board. We have 4 appointments to be made. By the way, 2 of them have to be with professional experience. Okay, so just the top. Well, we have 2 there, and then the other 2 can be from the at large. So the first one is by Vice Mayor Casal.
Ms. Sherman.
Okay, Andrea Sherman. Do we have a
Correct.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Second is Commissioner Burns.
Mr. Bennett, Montre Bennett.
Montre Bennett. Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, approved. Third will be me, Mayor Carney. I am going to go with Daniel Cianciotto.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Fine. The last one, unfortunately, do we have to choose?
You don't have to, but there should be a consideration of at least 3 people on the board. We already have 1, and then
we have
you made the
I
second.
made 2.
So the consideration is to fill the slots with the requirements of the board, if at all possible.
but you're not required. If it, at all possible.
I don't know if I agree with that. The language says must, so I think you.
So, Commissioner Marcus, you have one choice.
What, can you list out the choices that are qualified as?
Well, Amadeo and
Just one.
Cienciotto were the two that are qualified because of their professions.
These two, okay. Amadeus and Cienza, right.
It's in your materials. Yeah.
I know, I don't have it in front of me, I apologize.
So there's really only one
So
kind
there's
of
only
left.
Amadeo left.
Amadeo's the only one left, yeah, or Amadeo.
Okay, I nominate Amadeo.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, we're through that one.
Mayor.
Yes?
In the past, when a commissioner hasn't necessarily been given much of a choice because of something like this or because there were no other applicants, the commission can say the next round, that commissioner can be given another opportunity. So if you feel like that's appropriate under the circumstance, you can.
If there's a consensus, I would like to, for the next, to give Mr. Market the next appointment where he has, considering he had no choice on this one. Is there,
Okay, sure.
everybody agreed?
That's fair.
Fine, consensus. Okay, nomination for the Downtown Development Authority Board.
I believe that comes back to me. I nominate Mavis Benson.
Second.
Okay. Would you call a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Long,
No.
Ms. Cassell,
Yes.
Ms. Burns.
I have conflicting. May I ask a question before I vote?
You may.
Because, I think that, to be fair and consistent, we have to do the same that we do for everyone. So I think we set a precedence before when we dismissed Mr. Burgess. However, based on the comment that past Commissioner Katz made, he made a comment that when she was appointed, it was not as qualified, it was as an at-large. Is that?
So
Because if that's true,
I don't know if I agree with that. So the way that it worked that day, the mayor had the first nomination, and that was to replace Mr. Burgess. That was a tax qualified seat. Commissioner Markert went next. He appointed Ms. Benson as a tax qualified seat. Mr. Knight was appointed by Deputy Vice Mayor Long. However, at the time that he submitted his application, it was unclear whether he was tax qualified because the lease that he submitted did not contain the provisions like a triple net lease or something that indicated that he paid DDA taxes. So he was listed as an at-large appointment. Technically, right now the board has Mr. Devitt and Mr. Rosen as tax qualified, Mr. Van Arnhem as tax qualified. So this appointment should technically be tax qualified.
May I ask you a question,
on
though?
its
He
face.
didn't specify. She was on both lists. She was on
Correct,
the tax
but Mr.
qualified?
But I don't think she was. I don't
She
think
was
she
on both lists. Yes, she was.
That's another change we're going to be making so that when
And
we
that
make a
would be-
nomination,
that
we say
would-
if it's what it's for.
that
I mean,
would be the
technically,
basis of my
everybody would be
vote.
on both
If
lists.
she
Correct,
was on
that's the
both
point.
lists,
But she was on both lists.
But
and he
everybody would
selected
be
her.
because if you're
Understood.
tax qualified, then you would also be an at-large.
Right, but he didn't specify verbally that he was selecting her.
Right, but if we're going based on the way that the application was submitted, without any changes being made, Mr. Knight would have been at large. Because the attorneys, when they reviewed it, could not make a determination that he paid DDA taxes. There was some email exchange, I believe the commission was a part of it, where he tried to clarify that. But again, I think this commission is setting a precedent that the application, the way that it's submitted, is what you're going to rely on, and anything made after that, you may not necessarily rely on. I'm not speaking for the commission, I'm just giving you what I've seen.
well, I'm feeling that way. I feel that we did set a precedence that if your paperwork and information is not ready at the time of appointment, if it's not valid, then we threw somebody off because of that. And so then we would set another precedence that says if you don't have it ready, then you have some time to make it up and get it ready. And I don't think it's fair. I'm not trying to disparage anyone or make any, I just think that we need to be fair and consistent. My vote would be
Could I
no.
ask a question? One moment, please. When she applied for the appointment, she had an active lease. She was in that shop. What the issue was, what is happening when it expires, she needs to provide the next level to show when she actually sits in the seat that she has a lease, because it was coming due prior to her getting in the seat. So I get appointed today with an active lease, but it's running out next month, and I'm getting in the seat after it runs out. So the question to her was, provide us information to show you're still going to be here. She provided us a handwritten letter.
I don't want to be over lawyering this, but her lease was in the name of Avalon Gallery Inc. There is no Avalon Gallery Inc. in the
She
state of Florida.
provided
I
all
could not
that.
have sued on that
She's
lease.
provided all that.
But
Could I have sued on
my
that lease?
question to the attorney at the time was it a valid on the day of appointment? And the answer was no.
Wait, is that true, Lynn? Are you saying that the
It's-
answer was no?
At the time that she would have taken office, she would not have been tax qualified.
And so we established that at the last meeting, and had there been an updated application sent through, as I said, I would have supported this nomination.
She
but
sent an updated
No, she didn't. She sent multiple other documents. There was no new application sent through. So without restarting the process, we're just relitigating the same issue that we talked about at the last meeting.
I'm not
That's
being
why I
rude,
can't
but
support
I
it.
want to move on. We've got to
Yeah,
vote.
I vote no. I just want to be consistent and fair to everybody. So my
I just
vote
would
is
say
no.
the email exchanges between her and the city, I don't think it was really clear what.
We're voting.
Okay.
Okay. You know.
Yes.
I'm no. So that's a no.
Mr. Marker,
Yes.
Okay. So that's three to two. So
he has to pick somebody else
so
from
you
the
need to
list?
pick somebody else
And I would say it should be somebody from the tax qualified list.
from the tax qualified list. You don't have the tax qualified. It's in your materials.
Yeah, I need to do more homework. I want to defer it to the next meeting.
You can do that. Okay, we got a deferral. Perfect. 7F, amendment to the local rules of procedure. This was the genesis of this was Mr. Long's.
Commissioner Burns.
Commissioner Burns's comments last week, or a couple weeks back, and we have now codified it in our local rules. Do you want to explain the change?
Sure. So in the section under general provisions, this adds a code of conduct for the members of the city commission, and it essentially just memorializes the conduct that is expected of a commissioner, how you treat each other, how you treat staff, and how you treat the community. So,
Should we pull this at this point, though? I mean, I think we should forego this item altogether.
Why?
Why? Because people aren't going to follow that rule. We know that. The person who asked for that rule to be implemented is already not following that rule. So
Commissioner Burns, this came from
No,
Commissioner Burns.
Mr.
This is the Commissioner
Long
Burns.
asked
No,
for-
Commissioner
Commissioner
Burns.
Burns raised this.
Okay.
And
I apologize.
And
I apologize.
Commissioner and City Attorney Jelen looked at other communities, which we discussed, and pulled out the language that other communities have.
This was,
And-
I found this from the city of Fort Lauderdale,
Right.
and I had emailed it to the commission. I just, anything that we can do to enhance the professionalism and to
I'm all
instill
for it,
public
but
confidence
I
and
mean,
integrity,
come
I think that it's always beneficial to you. I will always send you these things, and if somebody gets consensus to put it in here, I follow my orders.
Want to make a motion to approve?
Yes, motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. All right, we have 8A, which is the second reading of public hearing.
Are we going to comment, though? Then I think Mr. Markert asked for this, to discuss this item in the last meeting. What are going to be the rules going forward with respect to emails and that? I mean, what's the consequence to not following our local rules?
Well, I'm not going to get
Just-
into First Amendment rights.
Right, exactly. So that's
we
the
feel
point.
the First
I
Amendment
mean,
rights.
We're
I
just
can agree or
having staff
disagree
do
with them, which
work.
I've disagreed with them.
We're
but
having
you
staff
still get
do
the
work
right to do it.
unnecessarily if there's no consequence to not following the rules. It's
Okay,
not-
there's being an aspersion cast that I'm somehow not following the rules by having a personal
There is
newsletter.
an aspersion
So
cast,
let's reflect on that, shall we?
Yes.
Ms. Jelen, is me having a personal newsletter that I pay for and disclaim as my own newsletter somehow disobeying our rules?
Mayor, if I may, there is a rule about when the vote is cast, you leave the commission and you support your commissioners on the vote. And I would argue
That's interesting and ironic, given how many votes we took last year that have been undone by this commission. So if that's the case, then we wouldn't
No,
relitigate
that's a
any
totally
votes that
different
occur here.
situation,
How is
and
it
you know
different? Because mine's done on my own
Attorney
expense,
Jelen.
yours is done here?
Okay,
It's
I've
not
called
at your own
agenda item
expense
8, so
anyway.
let's
Come on.
stop. I've called
Deputy-
agenda item 8A. Would you please read the resolution?
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, establishing a budget for the stormwater utility system, establishing rates for stormwater management assessments for each parcel within the benefited area, other than non-assessed property, providing for a public hearing, providing for the certification and adoption of the stormwater assessment rule in accordance with Chapter 56 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, and providing an effective date. And Mayor, just a reminder, this is a public hearing.
Thank you. Ms. Barletta.
May I have my presentation, please? There we go. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Missy Barletta, Director of Public Works. I'm here to speak with you this evening about the stormwater utility assessment. On May 16th, 2023, we approved ordinance number 1823 to amend the Public Works chapter of the Code of Ordinances to allow the city to establish a different way in which stormwater utility assessments were levied, to provide for a more equitable distribution of that assessment. A study was completed in early 2023 to determine a new rate structure, and the prior rate structure before that time was established in 2008. So effective in 2023, residential properties with less than 10,000 square feet of impervious coverage area were assigned to one of 4 tiers. Prior to 2023, every equivalent residential unit was charged the same amount. So under 2,000 square foot home was charged the same amount as a 10,000 square foot home. Residential properties of more than 10,000 square feet of impervious coverage are charged based on the actual impervious area. So when you get a very large home that covers most of their lot with impervious surface, driveway, and that sort of thing, they actually are making a larger contribution to the stormwater in the city, and they pay a larger share of the city's ability to deal with that stormwater and get it off of their property. Non-residential properties are based on actual impervious and a conglomeration of those kind of things. Another one of the things that we changed in 2023 is that we had previously given a discount for those developments that had private drainage systems. We had removed that, and then initially we also had removed exemptions for religious organizations and for the school board. We were petitioned to reinstate the exemption for religious organizations, and also included the school board, FDOT, and Lake Worth Drainage District in those exemptions. And that is reflected again in this year's rate. So we are not changing the stormwater utility rate assessment this year. It is staying exactly the same. So whatever an individual's rate was last year, it will be the same this year. This year there are about 32,484 parcels that are being assessed for stormwater coverage. The difference is actually only 40 additional parcels from last year, but that is reflected in the amount of exemptions that were provided once they were requested. The last year's number actually reflects that those exempted properties were still included. So of the 32,484 parcels, we will get an assessment amount of $4,292,000 $731.28.
Okay.
So to help you understand a little bit about more about how that is divided up, the tier 1, which is the smallest, under 2,000 square feet of impervious area on a property, contribute just about $380,000 of that. Tier 2, which is homes that are 2,000 to 5,000 square feet, which make up by far the largest tier of residences within our corporate limit, contribute about $1.4 million. The blue above is actually commercial properties, and they contribute about $1.5 million to the overall, and tier 4 is $275,000, and then the actual impervious residences provide about $403,000. So to show you what that looks like, basically by number of parcels, the blue in the pie chart on the left represents non-residential parcels, so that's how much the commercial parcels in the city contribute to the overall stormwater assessment. And then the 30,499 residential units make up the other 94% of the contribution. So this happens to me every single time. So this is just breaking it down a little bit further for you so that you can see per tier how much is actually contributed to the upkeep of the stormwater management system. As you can see, the tier 2 homes, again, those are the ones that are between 2,000 and 5,000 square feet, actually provide the majority of the people contributing into the system. So the $4.3 million that is adopted by this, in your backup materials, you'll see how we spend that in the stormwater fund. It pays for the salaries, equipment, and activities of the stormwater maintenance staff in the Public Works Department, as well as contributing to the construction of additional stormwater protection projects. If a resident disagrees with their tier and or amount of impervious area, there is an appeals process that they can move forward. They contact the Public Works Department Stormwater Division. Juan Cuesta PE is our stormwater engineer, and he is happy to help them through that appeals process. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. This is a public hearing. If there's any member of the public who wishes to make comment on this second reading of this resolution, now's the time to get up.
Is that talking about the drainage systems that go out to the intercoastal?
Yes.
Well, that's a component of this, yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's it? Okay. So to the commission.
I have a question. You said that you were petitioned to reinstate the churches?
Yes, ma'am. I started to tell a joke about last year a minister and a rabbi came to commission to ask, which is actually the truth and not funny. So
I thought it was funny. But.
Thank you. I didn't think you were up for levity tonight, so I skipped it. So they actually did come to commission, and they asked commission to reinstate the exemption. We were directed to go ahead and reinstate the exemption at that time. which we have done. We have not built it back into the ordinance as yet. We do expect to come back in the coming year and ask to raise these stormwater utility rates. There is the schedule that was created last year when we revamped the entire process. Actually calls for us to do incremental increases in the stormwater utility over a number of years to start paying for more of the stormwater pumping stations and seawall improvements and those kinds of things that we'll be implementing over the years. And at that time, we would, if it is Commission's desire, we would permanently re-implement that.
So the churches, members of the churches, the clergy came in to ask to be reinstated, that they be a part of paying this?
They want to be
No,
exempt.
ma'am.
They want to be.
They asked to be exempted.
Okay.
And they are exempted.
That's what I'm trying to support,
Yes.
They are
exempting
exempted.
the churches. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't
Sorry, I
think the
didn't make
baptisms
that
would-
clear.
I don't think all the baptisms would have a material difference on the stormwater anyway, so.
That's what I was like, I'm confused.
Is there any other
Okay.
questions from the commission?
Motion to approve.
Is there?
Well, we need to second, then we can have discussion.
Wait, we have a
Second?
question.
Well, I wanted to talk about creating a policy to permanently exempt churches. Is that something that the commission will entertain?
Well, we can add it to an agenda item for a later time. If you
All
want
right,
to do that,
thank
we
you.
can do that.
Please do.
Talk
Thank
about
you.
exempt, how we want to have a broad exemption for.
And did somebody
things.
motion it? Were you
I
waiting on
didn't.
a second?
Wait on a second, yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Fine. All right, we have a first reading now. Would you like to read 9A? This is also a public hearing.
Yes.
Right? No, excuse me, it's
this
not.
is-
First
this
reading,
is
it's not a public hearing.
First reading, not a public
Right.
hearing.
In ordinance number 2124, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending the land development regulations of the City of Delray Beach Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administrative Provisions, Article 2.6, Notice Requirements, Section 2.6.3, required public notice by enacting a new subsection H, waivers, to add public notice requirements for waiver requests that require City Commission approval, providing a conflicts clause, providing a severability clause, authority to codify, and providing an effective date. As a reminder, this was directed by the Commission. I believe it was Commissioner Cassell's recommendation.
Motion to approve.
Right.
Second.
Oh,
Well,
no, that's fine.
so it all is,
It's a first reading.
it's first reading.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Fine. It's going to be, the second reading will be very interesting.
Ordinance 25-24, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 32, Departments, Boards, and Commissions by amending Section 32.26, Composition, Appointment Terms, to reduce the number of the Education Board members from 13 members to 7 regular members, but by amending Section 32.28, Qualifications of Members, to update the qualifications by requiring board members to be either a parent or educator from each of the Delray Public Schools, by amending Section 32.29, Duties and Responsibilities, to update the purpose of the board, providing a savings clause, general appealer clause, and an effective date.
We
Motion
have,
to
And this is
approve.
first reading.
It's a first read.
we're not going to, okay, we don't need staff to make a presentation? Fine. Then motion to approve?
Yes, I did.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's done. Okay, comments on inquiries on non-agenda items. Mr. City Manager, you are first.
Thank you. Happy to be back. Thank you for laughing. I'm glad you all caught that. Try to be silly when I can. So in any event, direction on opioid litigation.
By the way, it should have been a rabbi, a minister, and a priest. It's always, you gotta, just, I take that,
You have to have three.
disqualified,
always have
just
to have
let
three.
you know about that.
Yes. So opioid litigation funds. So both the Office of the City Manager and that of the City Attorney were able to collaborate on a policy consideration regarding the use of opioid litigation funds. A significant amount of interest exists in this regard. Commissioner Burns, you and I have spoken about this one-on-one fairly extensively, as I did with one or two others. Not as much, but it's a matter that does require City Commission engagement and attention. I therefore asked Assistant City Manager Jeff Forrest to come before you to speak briefly about it, and the genesis of this policy consideration really comes down to what our legal capabilities are and are not. So we do have a specific criteria that can be offered so that the Commission can offer or chime in with respect to potential direction as to how we proceed with the policy. Mr. Orris, if you would, please.
Yes, essentially, we started basing a policy upon the settlement agreements with states. So it outlines what we can and can't do within those. So we included that in there. And then, I'm trying to keep this really short. And then essentially suggesting that the commission create a committee of appropriate professionals and community members to make a decision on how exactly we go about with selecting folks for those funds. That's pretty much what we've got in a nutshell. It's following the existing settlement agreements and then having a group that assists in making recommendations to you on how to utilize those funds.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Did you use the plan that was provided that the county adopted recently?
Our framework is a little bit more basic. It outlines what the state settlements allow us to do, and then, like I said, simply creates a committee to advise the commission on the expenditures.
Great. Any other questions from the commission? Mr. Moore, are you finished?
So that would do it. So my interest is to frankly secure consensus to proceed with a formal policy of which we would come back before you all at an upcoming regular meeting so that we can get to work on a framework to administer opportunities that might become possible.
So the committee will be in-house or community-based?
External.
External.
External. Okay.
External appointed by the commission.
Timeline that we're looking at for this?
So we anticipate a formal policy to this effect coming back before you August 19th, we're thinking. And once that is adopted, we can begin the process of the external appointment process as outlined per the recommendation, enabling a consideration process for funding allocations.
Yep.
So if there's consensus to proceed, I'd like to come back formally
Yes.
via
Yes.
the August
All agreed?
19th
Everyone agreed?
regular
Yes.
meeting.
All right.
Based on what we've just summarized, it will be documented and part of that agenda packet.
Good.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I yield at this time.
Okay, to the city attorney.
I promise this is going to be the last amendment to local rules. I don't think we've ever amended them this many times. But Mayor, I think at the last meeting you had discussed, and I think there was consensus to change the process that we would do presentations during first reading, and then second reading would only have a presentation if there were in fact changes made to the ordinance between first and second reading. That requires me to change the local rules, but if there's consensus and direction, I don't have to keep bringing this back. I can just do this along with the change to the code of conduct, and then we're done.
I want to explain my thinking on this. In the old days, we had, when they did the first reading, everyone got up and made a presentation. It would give the commission at that time, if they really didn't like it, as we had a situation with Commissioner Casal, who said, I'm not going to support that. Okay, so it would have given the opportunity at first reading to kill it, as opposed to having someone come back for a second reading when we up here thought we may not like it. That was my genesis. So, I mean, I'm happy to go either way. I know you all did it last time to speed the process up. I'm not sure that if it works the way it's supposed to work, the only thing that would make difference is it would give people with the first reading, if we didn't like something, say, well, I don't like that part, give them the opportunity second reading to come back and fix it. But because otherwise, it's just kind of like just flipping the order of the meetings. That was the genesis of my thinking. Having been someone who used to make presentations, I would hate to come up to the second reading if I knew that if all of them didn't like it to begin with, I was kind of wasting my time. So that was what I thought. But it's your call. It's
So we'd still probably, in most cases, only be getting one presentation. It would just be during the first reading instead of the second reading, right? Unless they make a substantive change and they got to give us an update.
right, and it gives them the opportunity after first reading, if you don't like it, to make changes to come back and still get it pushed. Because if you wait the second meeting and you kill it, they're done.
I don't think I have an issue with that. I think it works. We can try it out, right? I mean, is there any?
I don't see any reason.
Okay.
And we can limit it that the second presentation would only be confined to whatever the changes were between first and second. So you're not hearing the same thing over and over again. Because that was the concern before. You'd hear the same presentation twice, essentially.
Yep.
So it just shifts it to the first reading. Second reading would merely be any changes. If there's no changes, then there's no presentation.
And there's one other thing that I mentioned to you, which it hasn't gotten up here yet, is I talked to you about should we, and I don't know if this is a local rule or just how we'll do this, but when we give an applicant the ability to rebut, I think we should have a time limit on that. Because when we had one of the things that the rebuttals kind of went on and on and on.
I think there are rules on that, aren't there?
I don't think there are. We
mean,
didn't put any time limits. We could put a time limit on rebuttal.
I mean, I do think we should, it shouldn't be, I'm finding that the rebuttals are, they're representing. And I'm trying to get away from that to streamline the rebuttal.
We put it in there. It's
Yeah,
3
we
minutes.
did.
We
It's in
did that.
there?
We did that
Yeah.
before. We changed it. to
Okay,
3
that's fine.
minutes.
As long as I just didn't remember, I didn't see it, so that's fine.
3 minutes.
Page 12.
Yeah, I would give them 1, but that's.
Do you want one? I can change
No,
it.
no,
I'm
listen,
changing it
the
anyway.
the attorneys get paid by the word, let them have 3.
Okay, so is there consensus for me to make this last change?
Yeah.
Unless
Yes.
you want to add, how long are we going to try the 6 o'clock thing?
Oh yeah, that's in here
Yes,
too.
I'm loving
after
it.
the last meeting, I'm definitely in favor of
I'm
moving
loving
it
it.
to
We're out by
5.
8, it's great, perfect.
This time.
I would be in favor of moving it to 5.
Well,
We said that we would try.
for the
I just
record.
want- I'm gonna
Well,
keep
we haven't even
asking,
tried it.
How long are we going to try?
Well, I'm going to bring up the golf course too, so you can keep bringing it
I'm
up.
going
That's
to keep
okay.
bringing it up.
All right.
Just Angela and I towing that line
Are,
for now.
are
yes.
you finished, City Attorney?
Is there consensus for me to make that change? I just
Yeah.
need
Yes,
3
please.
nods. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
To the commission, Commissioner Long,
I got nothing.
Commissioner Casal.
Can we get some kind of update in terms of what's going on with the OIG looking into the utility billing? That was quite a bit ago that you sent the ACFR to them along with an email, but has there been any reply?
No,
Okay.
there has not been any reply. We've provided, we've responded, we've clarified a great deal, and there has not been any status or direction since.
No additional requests for
No, ma'am.
information? Nothing?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
What? That's a good question.
No, I was thinking of Commissioner Burns. No, I wasn't thinking.
You were thinking of me and you laughed?
Yeah, I'm waiting on your next. I was going to try to skip you so you couldn't bring it up. So, Commissioner Burns.
I have nothing.
Okay.
I have nothing.
All right. And my only thing is, I had thought we were going to get the contract done for the golf course. We had talked about getting it now. So I just was wondering where it is because I'd like really a timeline on what we're doing.
Okay, I'll talk
Okay,
to,
that's a 1.7 million. Are we gonna really maybe we ought to back off on that in light of our current conversation?
you've already made the budget adjustments approvals during the June 18th regular meeting, and I discussed this during the July 9th regular meeting last week, that we are in the final due diligence process with Sanford Ferris, and that is actually anticipated for your next regular meeting.
Okay, 'cause I thought it was going to be, that's fine, that's all. Then I have no more comments. Does anybody else have any comments?
No, thank you.
We are adjourned.